President Trump's tariff war is taking the world by storm, and scores of countries are lining up to begin negotiations. Here's one America's Pearson Sharp.
They said he wouldn't do it. The tariffs were just campaign noise, that no one in Washington had the guts. Well, Trump did it. And now the same people who begged for tariffs on China for decades are panicking because the man who actually delivered is Donald Trump. As of this week, the U.S. has officially hit communist China with 125% total tariffs on all Chinese imports. That's up from 104%, which was already breaking headlines just a few days ago. Why? Because China refused to back off their own 84% retaliatory tariff by Trump's April 8th deadline. So he doubled and then tripled down, just like he said he would. Beijing responded with an 84% total tariff on American goods and slapped restrictions on 18 U.S. companies, mostly tied to the defense sector, which, of course, is hilarious because the same Chinese regime pretending to take the moral high ground is currently arming Russia, buying Iranian oil, and running a mass surveillance state straight out of Orwell's worst nightmare. And despite the worst predictions of the Democrats, Wall Street is booming, exploding nearly 10% from a surge in overseas buyers, which proves Trump's strategy is working. His economic offensive is hitting China hard. For over 30 years, China has treated the U.S. like their own personal buffet line. They've manipulated their currency, subsidized industries, stolen our intellectual property, and dumped cheap goods into our economy while gutting American jobs. Add to that the fentanyl precursors pouring across our border, courtesy of Chinese labs. But when Trump puts a price on that relationship, suddenly it's an escalation. That's like saying a drowning man reaching for a life vest is an escalation.
104% tariffs in China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, and sell it back here. This is not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. Government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough.
And the Democrats know this, even if they won't admit it. Hell, even Chuck Schumer used to get it. In 2005, he was screaming for tariffs on China. 27.5% is what he wanted. He accused China of cheating and destroying American industry and costing American jobs.
The bottom line is very simple, Mr. President. The Chinese have enjoyed a huge trade surplus with the United States, as this chart shows. Every year, it gets larger and larger and larger. What does this mean for America? It means a huge job loss. We have suffered dramatically in manufacturing jobs and now service jobs and other jobs. It means we have a huge trade deficit. It means the dollar sinks to abysmally low levels, threatening our wealth. And it creates chaos in the whole world trading system.
And let's not forget Nancy Pelosi, who in 2010 accused China of, quote, rigging the game against American workers and demanded, quote, strong action to level the playing field.
Now, if you take a country the size of China with the very cheap, and in some instances, slave labor, the lack of market access, the rip-off of our intellectual property, the transfer of technology, a country that is not willing to play by the rules in any respect in this trade relationship, you have a serious threat not only to our relationship, but to the industrialized world.
I think this qualifies. But fast forward 20 years, and now they're pretending this is economic sabotage. That's not a change of heart, it's a change in power. The Democrats didn't want tariffs. They wanted control. And the media? They're no better. CNN and the New York Times spent years warning about Chinese manipulation. Now they're pearl clutching over Trump using the one tool that actually stops it. And in truth, this is a game of chicken China can't afford to play. Their economy is already under massive pressure. Youth unemployment is exploding. Their real estate market is in free fall. Their Belt and Road debt traps are imploding. And now their number one customer, the United States, is closing the tap. According to U.S. trade data, we imported over $560 billion in goods from China last year. However, they bought just over $150 billion from us. That is a 3-to-1 imbalance. You don't need an economics degree to figure out who holds the leverage. And Trump is using that leverage like a sledgehammer. And the world is noticing. The European Union is terrified of being shut out and just announced 25% tariffs on select U.S. goods. But they're already moving towards talks with the Trump administration. Meanwhile, Trump is telling the world, quote, countries are calling us up, kissing our ass. And that's not bragging. That's just what happens when you have a real leader in the White House and not someone who's bought and paid for by China. And so it's no surprise that most Americans are loving this. A new poll shows 3 out of 4 Americans expect prices to rise, but still support trade action against China. Why? Because Americans are done being lectured about short-term pain while their towns, jobs, and industries disappear. This isn't about Walmart prices, it's about national survival. You don't rebuild steel and semiconductors or pharmaceuticals overnight, but you don't rebuild them at all unless you create space for them to grow, and tariffs are that space. This is also about national security because we aren't just talking about soybeans and sneakers. China is racing to dominate AI, biotech, green tech, and weapons systems. And every dollar that we send to Beijing funds the next generation of CCP expansion. Trump's tariffs cut that cord. And now the Democrats want to pretend that this is reckless, that it's poorly thought out. But let's talk about reckless. Joe Biden gave away the farm to China, literally. He rolled back Trump's export controls, sat on his hands as fentanyl poured into American cities, and did nothing as China set up dual-use tech hubs in Latin America. Biden's answer to Beijing was a handshake and a debt crisis. Trump's answer? 125%. Cattle ranchers, factory workers, and American manufacturers are all sounding off in support because they're the ones who've lived with the consequences of outsourcing, forced to compete with cheap, hormone-loaded beef from Brazil, while China and Australia slap restrictions on U.S. meat. Trump isn't doing this because it's easy. Remember, he's personally lost over $500 million of his own money because of these tariffs. He's not in this to get rich quick. He's doing it because it's necessary, even if it's a hard pill to swallow, because the cost of not acting is total dependency on our enemies. This is what America First actually looks like. It looks like tariffs. It looks like leverage. It looks like leadership. As Howard Lutnick said, everyone in the world is ready to work with Trump except China. And if that upsets the global elite, Wall Street, and the CCP, good. It doesn't cost us a dime to let them sweat. For One America News, I'm Pearson Sharp. For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.